I do this again? Yeah, something like this, I think. Hmm. Hmm. Allow? God, it's been so long. You know, it's been so long. We're getting there. Yeah, that one. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Getting back into the feel here. Very good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ah, it's in my eyes. Okay, okay. Nope. Gotta fix that. Make sure we're caught up. Okay. Hey there. Hi there. Hyde here. I know what you're thinking. It's been so long. I thought he was dead. You know what? I thought I was dead there too. We sold our fish last time. That's very good. It has been, what? Maybe a month, 3 weeks, maybe even longer since I've last played this game, since I've last streamed. And I'll tell you something else. It's been almost exactly a month since I've recorded anything with my voice. My voice has been awful. Just absolutely awful. Where are we gonna fish today? We have enough money to go anywhere. Let's go to Ottawa. Ottawa. The magical land of Ottawa. Oh, it's raining. This is horrible. Oh, this is really bad. Let's fish in the stagnant pond area. You never know what you're gonna find in the stagnant pond area. I don't remember how to play. Hopefully it'll come back to me. Like, yeah, okay. Don't press the Y button. Hopefully it'll come back to me when we start getting into this. But it has been longer than a month. My last stream, if I remember correctly, was Enter the Gungeon. All the way before Christmas, right? Yeah, that was a while ago. My hands aren't working too well. I've been playing other games in my free time. I say free time, but I haven't had much of that lately. Shall we get into it? Why has Hyde been away for so long? Part of it was the holidays, so that's one H. A burbot. That's not a real name. That's not a real fish. I've never caught a burbot in my life. Or maybe because we're in Ottawa, maybe it's a burbot, right? Like that's French or something. I don't know. Probably burbot. It's actually a fun name to say, burbot. Right, 3 H's of why I've been away. Number one, the holidays. I just had a lot to do. I had a lot of family gatherings. I had a lot of, stuff to do with friends. I had a lot of stuff to do in general. I was very late this year to getting my cookie baking done, getting my gifts wrapped. I was very late. Like, I did it all last minute. It turned out fine. Um, and I probably won't talk too much about the holidays, other than to say that it was part of another of the H's that caused me so much despair the last couple weeks. Health. um, I don't interact with people too much, you know? It's not something I really do, interacting with people, especially not in person. I don't really go out much. In fact, if I can avoid it, I don't go out at all. If I didn't have to go out at all, that'd be the ideal life, right? Not having to see people in person, not having to do that kind of thing. But life is not ideal, and sometimes we have to compromise with what we want, right? Because we want people to be happy, or we have to do things like, I don't know, go shopping to feed ourselves, which I should probably do at some point. I've been avoiding it because of my health. And all of this is a long-winded way of saying that because I don't interact with people too often in person, I ended up catching COVID, asp. Very fitting. Looks like a giant minnow, doesn't it? Like a carp species. Very good. Um, so yeah, whenever I go out and I interact with people, I inevitably get sick. This year, it was pretty bad. I've been out of commission since, I want to say since the 26th, and I've just recently gotten better. Still a little bit of it in my voice. It's not ideal. But that's okay. I will recover at my own pace and do my best, you know? That's about all I can do. And I was gonna stream last week, but that gets me into the third H. Hardware. I've been having a lot of hardware issues. Um, I do have another computer that I've been working on ever since this one started having issues. Uh, it's older, but it has a better graphics card. So I've been trying to revive it. The first thing I did was I replaced the thermal paste, which was necessary. It was very much necessary after as long as it's been out of commission. The thermal paste was very hard to remove. It wasn't dried to a cakey paste, but it was getting there. It was almost caked on there, like a dry cake. It was still gummy, so it's not like I lost. I probably didn't cause any problems not changing it until now. But I did that, and I thought, okay, well maybe the computer's overheating, and that's why it's having issues. And in part that was correct, but it wasn't the only problem. After I took it apart, because it's a very hard thing to take apart, I had to strip it all down to even get to the CPU and GPU. Um, that took me a while. I'm not very good with technology. I should not be trusted with anything more complicated than a rock hammer, which is pretty much the only kind of technology I feel comfortable with. Simple machinery. Lever. That's all it is. Quit hitting the B button. That's a Gungeon thing, I think, hitting the B button. Yeah. Very Gungeon influence. I've been playing a lot of Gungeon when I've been sick in bed. Yeah. We'll get into that. So the hardware issues. I had to replace the hard drive because that also failed after I took it apart. I don't think it was entirely my fault. Like, I didn't jostle it too much. I even had a grounding bracelet, and I used nitrile gloves. So I don't think I did anything to short anything or cause any problems. I was very delicate with it. Because, again, I shouldn't be trusted with technology, and I know that. So I ended up being very, very careful with everything. I didn't have to have a grounding bracelet, I'm sure. But I did anyway, because I wanted to make sure that I didn't, mess anything up. Unfortunately, the hard drive just would not work very well. and it was failing. I think that's initially what failed, the hard drive. So I got a cheap solid-state drive off of Amazon, and I popped it in, and it gave me some trouble at first. I think there were some hardware issues with the computer being so old that new solid-state drives were a little difficult for it, but I got it working. Somehow, by bashing it with a hammer, I got it. No, I didn't bash it with a hammer. It just plugged right in. But I had to make sure the connection was very snug, very secure, because any little gap, I think, was causing it to knock. And yeah, fresh install. I put Linux Mint on there. And it's my first time messing around with Linux. Again, I should not be trusted with technology, I know that. I'm a very simple man. And any technology... keep. Any technology is going to cause me problems. So... I've had to learn a lot putting Linux on it. You might ask, why did I put Linux on it instead of Windows like I'm used to? Well, that's a great question. The computer is so old that it used to run Windows 7. Can you believe that? I don't think it can handle Windows 10. It is that outdated. The hardware is that old. I might be able to put Windows 10 on if I did some trickery that is beyond me. That's what I've figured out. And I did put Windows 7 on there initially, but I was having driver issues, which is why I decided, hey, Linux. Linux takes care of, like, all of your drivers for you, right? That's the big appeal of Linux. Put Linux on there, it'll install all the drivers Linux needs. And, yes, but no. Yes, but no. That's the way it goes, right? See, I spent night after night trying to fix this thing, trying to get it to work. And I did successfully get Linux on there. That wasn't the hard part. Well, it wasn't the hard part after I switched from Cinnamon to Mate. Once I realized, you know what? Cinnamon might be a little bit too resource intensive, or maybe it's going to have some weird effects with this old hardware. I'll just downgrade to Mate, which is what I did, and it worked perfectly. Mate works really nice, except I can't get the graphics card working, and I spent night after night working on that and realized it was an issue of drivers. The exact thing that I didn't want to mess around with Windows, I am now messing around with Linux. I figured out eventually that I had to downgrade my kernel to, I think it was 21 or 22. Which is not ideal, but you know, that's not too far away. So I downgraded my kernel, fresh install of that, and then I still had issues. There is this thing called Prime, right? And Prime is essentially there to help you switch between dedicated and integrated graphics cards in computers with those, which mine is. And I think the hardware is too old for it. The driver that is for my hardware is not supported by Prime, so I have to look at older solutions. This is an Optimus issue, an NVIDIA Optimus issue. I don't know what that means. Like, Optimus is clearly like the proprietary software for switching between, I guess, integrated and dedicated graphics cards. Or are they called discrete? I don't know. Don't take me at my word. Especially not when it comes to technology. I'm just bumbling through this. And that's where I am now with that one. And that wasn't my only problem. The only reason that I was even looking into how to fix this old computer was because I wanted a redundant system in case I had hardware issues on my current computer, which I am experiencing. And I have been since before Christmas. Um, I was playing a game on my computer one night, and suddenly I realized, oh, my computer stopped charging. That's not great. I need to fix that if I want to stream, if I want to record, if I want to edit things. I need to fix that. And that's what sent me down all of this. And wouldn't you know it, I replaced the battery because I figured it was a battery issue. My battery was old. I ran diagnostics on my computer for hardware, and the only issue that popped up was that my battery was a bit weak. um, so after replacing the battery, I thought, okay, I should be good. Nothing's going to cause any problems. I'll be okay. I have everything fixed. And it wasn't. So I ordered another battery and a new charger, and I said, okay, we can troubleshoot from here. And incidentally, those packages were supposed to arrive before last week's stream. So I was supposed to have them for last week's stream, and I should have been streaming last week. Although, I still wasn't fully recovered. I was planning on streaming last week, a short stream, to get back into the swing of things. But the packages got delayed because, I don't know, screw me, I guess. That's how it works. Probably because I live in the middle of nowhere, and maybe it snowed or something, I don't know. Something happened. Nice. So, I replaced the battery that I just replaced, and I replaced the charger, and it is currently charging. I don't know if it's fixed. I can't say. Because my issue before was intermittent, right? It wasn't always happening. Sometimes it would charge just fine, and sometimes it wouldn't. So now, I'm just playing it by ear. And if this doesn't fix the issue, I probably have to change the charging port itself, which is going to be a nightmare. Taking apart this computer to change a charging port. I don't know if it's soldered on or if it's just a plug-in type. I'm hoping it's just if I have to, take it apart and unplug it, plug things back in. If I do that, I'll end up changing the thermal paste on this one as well. I think it needs it. It's running a bit hot. It's probably not been changed recently enough. That's okay. I can do that. It's not going to be a big deal. I hope. I think my older computer is a lot more of a hassle to get into. It was a weird in-between model, so even the manual wasn't right for it, right? Like, I got a manufacturer's manual online, right? And I looked it up for my model specifically. And when I opened up my computer, my old one, it was not exactly the same. So I don't know. I think I got some kind of weird in-between model where the engineers weren't quite figuring it out right. And they said, you know what? Instead of making it easy to get to things, you have to tear everything out in order to get to one specific thing that goes wrong often. Like, I'll give them credit. The hard drive placement is fantastic. It's very easy to change computer. But anything else, it is technology hell, which is the fourth H, I think. Technology hell. Yeah, I hate it. Yeah. So, let's talk about my sickness. One of the other H's. I got COVID. And, I know it was COVID. People kept telling me, no, it's probably just the flu. No, it's not COVID. You had COVID not too long ago. Like last year. I get it once a year now. That's about as long as it takes for my antibodies to run out. With how little I interact with people, I guess. But I know it was COVID. You know how I know it was COVID? I had all of the classic COVID symptoms. I had the runny nose that just wouldn't quit for days on end. I had chills, terrible chills. I could not get warm. Um, I kept covering myself in blankets. The first 2 or 3 days, I did nothing. I just stayed in my bed underneath all of my blankets. And I had terrible night sweats. Terrible, terrible night sweats. And eventually I lost my sense of taste, which has just recently returned. A couple of days ago, I think. I can now taste things like I used to. So I'm on the road to recovery. But the last 2, 3 weeks have been very bad. Very bad for my health. And I haven't really been able to edit much content. I haven't had the energy. I have been working, so, I'm trying to do things. I am. Content has been very limited as of late, which I apologize for. Uh, I do have content. I just haven't had it edited. That's the problem. Like, before Christmas, I ended up recording a huge batch for my backlog, and I set out to make sure that I had at least 3 weeks of content. And I did for Christmas, and I figured, well, it won't take much energy to edit some of these. It won't take much time. I can put this out during the next 3 weeks while I recover and get things ready to continue. I was wrong there, too. Because of my health issues, I was not able to edit much content, and I still haven't. I've been able to put things out occasionally, and that might continue for a bit longer. My voice is still a bit unsteady. I don't know if you can hear it, but I can hear it, and I can feel it. So, yeah. We're just gonna have to wait on that. I do have more content from before I got sick, though. So, if I have the energy to edit it, it will go up, and there will be Hyde content. If anyone is concerned about that. I don't know. I wanted to do more. I did. Just sometimes life doesn't let you, right? Life doesn't always let you do that. That's okay. Yeah. Hyde will keep trying. As I get my energy back, I will push myself harder to get back into gear. See, I don't have much motivation to do things when I feel sick. Nice hiccup there in my internet. That's been happening a lot. 11% dropped frames. Very good. Very good. I work by momentum, right? So I make a routine, and then I can ensure that by following my routine, I end up getting everything I want done. That said, I haven't been sitting on my laurels, just wasting my time. I have been working on a bigger project. It's gonna take me a while. We're talking about a couple weeks, probably, before you'll see that. But I have been working on things that didn't require my voice. So, I guess I should talk about that a little bit. A while ago, I did a movie night with the public domain Jekyll and Hyde movie from whenever it was. One of those early silent films. And I really liked one of the dynamics of that stream. And I wanted to turn that into, I guess, some content. So, I have recorded part of what I needed. I am scripting. That's right, I'm actually writing a script. And I'm about halfway done with that. Afterwards, I'll need to record, and then I'll edit it all together for your viewing pleasure. You can probably figure out what my plans are there, based on what I said, if you've been around long enough, if you've paid attention to my content. If not, I don't know. I will say it's going to probably be a little over an hour of content, so that's been taking up a lot of my time and energy as of late. I've already invested like 4 or 5 hours into the project, and I intend to invest a lot more. Recording is probably going to take me 3 or 4 hours. Hello. Hi, Diana. Got home from watching a friend's kitty cat. That's nice. It's always nice to see other kitty cats, isn't it? Like, when I was young, I was always told by my uncles that they enjoyed seeing their nephews because they could get us all sugared up on candy and soda and then send us home and not have to deal with it, right? I imagine cats are very similar to that, right? Watching a friend's cat, you don't have to really worry about how zoomied up they get, right? Yeah. They can just have as much fun as they want, and then your friends have to worry about it at the end of the day. Yeah. So I feel about children, too. What was I talking about? I don't know. I think I was talking about... Oh, the project, yes. Um, it's a project I've been wanting to do for a while now, and I'm very happy that I got the chance to start working on it. Because of my sickness, I haven't really trusted my voice for recording, so we're not there yet. But I still have a lot of scripting to do for this probably hour-long project. One of those cats that doesn't like most people? Great, I love those cats. My cat hates most people, too. It's a great cat to have. One of the chosen ones. Oh. She reveals her belly, huh? I don't trust cats that reveal their bellies. Like, I get it. They probably want their belly scratched and rubbed. But, sometimes they'll just, like, attack you out of nowhere after they expose their belly, and they're like, rub my belly. And you do. But it's a trap. I've had, like, one feral cat that did that to me. She was my cat, by the way. A bass. That's great. Let's actually fish in the clean water for a little bit. Change of pace. Look, it's Ottawa over there. Some cats are like that, where they'll just attack you out of nowhere, even if they like you. Yeah, it really does depend on the cat. I don't know if getting to know them will make them any less aggressive towards you for rubbing their bellies. I can't say. I think that also... I don't know. It has been nice being able to spend time with my cat. Like, during the holidays, I was traveling a lot, spending time with family and the like, and my cat may have been a tiny bit neglected, right? It's very unfortunate that was the case. I missed her too. Yeah. And then when I was sick, I didn't get to spend much time with her while I was lying around in bed, pretty much dying. It was horrible. The fevers were great. If you've never had the COVID chills, count yourself lucky. That's usually how I know I have COVID. It's the first symptom. Chills and night sweat. Oh, you want to know something gross? I'll talk about the night sweats for a little bit here. I think it's very important to share this information. One night, I had night sweats so bad that I felt the sweat dripping from a lock of my hair onto my pillow. And it was like a constant stream. And I remember thinking to myself, I feel like a candle, right? Like a burning candle has the wax dripping off. That's exactly how it felt. Cold, oily sweat dripping from a lock of my hair. It was great. Felt like I was outside in barely any clothes in the snow. Oh, the chills, yes, they're very fantastic. Yes, under a bunch of blankets. That's what you have to do. Like, that's one of the symptoms. It's really ridiculous. I've never had chills quite as bad as COVID. And I've been very sick before. So that's saying something. It is a fantastic symptom. Very great. Love it. Thank you for having that, nature. Or labs. I don't care. One or the other. Yeah. Apparently, I did some research on that, and night sweats are caused by an overtaxed body. So, essentially, the ATP synthesis processes get overtaxed, and your body can't produce enough energy and it starts working in different ways to try and produce energy. So I read a small-scale study, sample size of like 5 people, which isn't great, but cutting-edge science requires, at least looking into it. And basically, this is their proposal, their hypothesis, that it's a matter of energy. And they had their patients, who had these long COVID night sweats, uh, eat a lot of carbs before bed. That was the solution. So eating the carbs, it actually seemed to help with their night sweats. They stopped having them almost immediately. So I did the same thing, and it worked for me as well. So I highly recommend that if you ever get terrible night sweats during COVID. Eat a lot of carbs before bed. You'll feel gross, but you won't have night sweats. How did I fare during the big old winter storms? They weren't that big here. Like, I was very disappointed we didn't get much snow. It's very sad because I wanted to play in the snow, even though I was sick. We only got a light dusting, really. I'm hoping for a bigger storm. Something with maybe a couple inches of snow would be nice. Then I can build snowmen or something. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I'd like to do that. I just haven't had the opportunity. So all I've had is just annoying light dustings that require me to throw ice, or not ice, throw salt to prevent the formation of ice. Not that bad. It's kind of sad, but I am happy for that. You got a decent amount, but nothing mind-blowing? Yeah, they looked like big storms, so I was expecting more snow than what I got. I don't know. Weather is weird, right? Weather's weird. Yeah, it's one of those things where you never quite predict it. The Earth's a very complicated system, and I would know because I've studied Earth systems. I can tell you, we get about 1 day of accurate, predictable weather phenomena as per modeling. Or at least that was the case in the early 2000s. Maybe with AI and other assistive technologies, we have gotten better predictive models. Maybe we can get a couple days now. I don't know. But I don't trust weather. It was a storm, I'll give it that. But they were predicting more snow here as well, and we didn't get it. So I can't really blame them with how complicated the systems are. But at the same time, I'm kind of disappointed. I didn't even get enough to build a snowman. That's okay though, I was sick anyway. Gotta keep my throat moistened. I'll tell you what, this time, a lot of the symptoms were in my chest and my nose. So I was coughing a lot. I was worried I might get pneumonia. So I tried to stay up and get active after a couple days, and that seemed to help. I'm not coughing as much as I used to. That's great. My voice is still very weak, though, because I haven't been talking much. Being sick, I've been trying to talk as little as possible. Like last week, I was going to stream, but only under the influence of cough drops, right? I don't know if you know this about cough drops, but the ones with menthol especially, you should not really abuse coughs and other kinds of problems. Menthol itself might be slightly carcinogenic, who knows? I'm not a doctor. But it might worsen your coughs if you overuse cough drops. But that was the plan last week. Luckily we don't have to do that this week. I can get by just making sure I stay hydrated and drink enough fluids, which is what I'm trying to do. As you may have noticed, I haven't coughed yet, which is good. Never heard that? Oh yeah, yeah. Cough drops are medicine, Cough drops cough drops are as much medicine as anything else. You gotta be careful not to overuse it. I will say that I was probably abusing ibuprofen again. Ibuprofen was the only thing keeping my temperature down, so I had to take ibuprofen several times a day for probably a solid week. And then I said, okay, let's not get into the whole shoulder injury territory of taking it for a month straight. So it's fine. Pretty much everything is better. I'd say I'm about 80% back to full health. Poor liver. Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? Um, I will say that I stopped drinking after the holidays because I was sick. So that there is that. I will say that I've had a few more caps since then, since I've been off the medicine. So I like to think that there was a trade-off there, right? You know, the first couple days, I didn't even get out of my bed to smoke, so I felt especially bad. Like, I don't know if you've, anyone out there has ever smoked. You know how bad nicotine withdrawal gets. You just feel horrible. You get headaches and you feel nauseated. um, yeah, so I think I got through the first week barely smoking at all. I couldn't smoke. Like, every time I tried to smoke, I would just go into a coughing fit. Uh, so it was very hard to get the nicotine into my body. Yes, yes, I am. I'm trying to take better care of myself, but also trying to do a lot of things. Um, I'm trying to work, and I'm trying to do this VTubing thing. Like, this is important to me, VTubing. I don't know if I've ever expressly stated it, but I see this as a sort of cognitive behavioral therapy for myself, right? As well as practice for my speech therapy, which is very important for someone who doesn't talk much. I've talked about that before, but I spent so many years in speech therapy that I would like to have you know, my my voice actually sound okay again. And I figure after about a year of this, I've actually gotten it pretty darn close to what it used to be. There isn't quite as much fry in the ending of my words. Even the amount I can speak at one time has increased. Now that I've been sick, I let it slip a little bit. And being sick, my voice is actually very weak. It will kind of crack here and there. That's okay. I'm working on that too. I just need to get talking again. I need to start streaming and making content. As I said at the beginning of the stream, I haven't really recorded anything with my voice since the holidays, since I got sick. I just couldn't do it. Sound good? uh, I, it was really bad. Oh, it was very bad. Some of my earliest content on this channel was me playing TF2 while I had COVID, and I had a sniffle counter. I was thinking about doing that again, because it was even worse than when I had the sniffle counter. It was just constantly running nose, and that's really what I'm more concerned about. I could practice more. I could. I intend to. I'm working on a big project here. I don't know if you were here for me when I was talking about that by streaming more. Well, streaming more. I don't know about that. I think streaming is very difficult for me. I don't know if I'm built for streaming, you know? I think streaming is a lot more stressful than people realize. Like, I feel this constant need to be entertaining. I feel like I constantly have to be talking. I feel like dead air is a bad thing. I know it's not. I know that's part of it. But at the same time, like, I feel like that. So it becomes like that. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that I have to talk. Even when I don't feel like talking. But that's also part of the therapy for me, right? Like, in social situations, I'm perfectly fine not talking. Just like the conversation. I'm glad, thank you. that makes me feel a little bit better. Yeah. There are a lot of people out there, and they all have different expectations for what they want out of a stream, you know? Some people like hearing people yammer on about different things. I will not say yap. I will not call it yapping. I'm an old man. I will call it yammering. I'm too old. Um, some people like having people just talk about things, right? Like they're not there for conversation. They want to hear what the person wants to talk about. And I get that too. There are people who do mute streams. Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get muting streams. Like, maybe it's a game that you really want to watch or play, and you don't want to listen to someone talk, but you want to watch the game. I could get that. But you're not hearing any of the game noises, and I don't know. Ever since I started streaming, I've realized how important game noises are, right? The Foley, the background music, it's all to setting the mood. That's why in a lot of the videos, I try to add Foley and background music to them when they aren't present. I don't know if anyone's actually noticed, but I've done that recently as well. Oh no? Oh no what? I like adding Foley. Foley's good. It's very important. Meant mute for the streamer. Oh, I see. Yeah, I really don't know. I don't really get it, but there are a lot of variations out there. Different audiences want different things. But game sounds still. Oh. Oh. What, you want me to mute myself? I can do that. I can mute myself, and then you can just hear the rain and the fishing sounds. I don't know. There are people out there who want all kinds of different things, and not everybody, not every streamer is fit for being everything that everyone wants. I don't think you can please everybody all the time. No. Okay, then I won't mute myself. But I do have the option. It's one of the reasons I bought my current microphone. It has a mute button right on the top, so that I can mute at any point if I have to. I rarely use it, but it's there. Right, right. I realize that, you know? I've been watching a lot of old content from other streamers and Let's Players from my childhood. My childhood. My early adulthood. My mid-adulthood. Um, 5 or 6 years ago, okay? I'm watching a lot of videos from 5 or 6 years ago from people I used to enjoy, content creators that who are no longer around. And they had a lot of dead air, and it never affected anyone that they had dead air. So I get that. But, you know, it's just one of those things I still feel like I have to do. Mute streamers nice for background sound. Yeah, yeah. There are... game sounds can be very calming. I agree with you. There are a couple, even VTubers, who are essentially mute. Like, not doing anything more than occasionally putting up a note on screen. And they're fairly successful, fairly popular. So, you know, I recognize that. And there have been plenty of Let's Players that I've watched that don't do audio commentary. But, you know, I don't think that's appropriate for what I'm trying to do with my streams, right? My streams are supposed to be about interaction. I make a lot of content, a lot of videos, and those are me just messing around with games, right? Me having fun playing a game. And experiencing it, and sharing the experience. And if others enjoy it, that's great. I'm very happy if others enjoy it. Streams are different, though. Streams are very different beasties. They're all about interaction for me, right? So if anyone ever wants to talk with me, there's this chance while I'm streaming. I know I don't stream often, and I don't stream very long either. But I'm not used to socializing. It's very tough for me to put myself out here, and with the feelings that I have to be entertaining, or at least I have to be talkative, it's a bit draining. So, when I first started out, I was streaming, I think, like 3 times per week. And I soon realized, no, no, I can't do that. I don't feel like I'm recharged enough to do 3 streams a week. I don't know about increasing it more than 1 per week. I could probably push myself for 2, but I don't know. Nice to socialize with. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's not like I haven't cultivated the ability to talk to other people, which is actually something I want to talk about that. Like, a lot of people think that it's easy to talk to people, or it's not easy to talk to people. Like, there's a lot of variation here, but there's some kind of innate talent to talk to people, or some people are born without that talent. Yes, that's true. Some people are naturally more extroverted, and they can talk more easily than others. But it's still a skill you can learn. It is something you can learn. I'm proof of that. I don't really use it too often, but I did cultivate the skill at one point to interact with people. Part of that was speech therapy, of course. A lot of talking is making sure other people can hear you properly. So enunciating and being very clear are important skills to have, and you can cultivate that. Ooh, ooh. What happened to my, Oh. Internet hiccup there. My stream suddenly went low quality for me. Very good, very good. Yeah, you can cultivate those skills. And you can even cultivate being interesting, right? Like, I don't do that. I'm not a very interesting person. But if you wanted to, you can cultivate being interesting. Like, it's very true that gentlemen of the ages past used to read newspapers to stay informed so they could talk to other people while on the trains or whatever they did, going to their child-run mining facilities. I don't know. Whatever they did, gentlemen of the time. Linked to anxiety at all? It was mostly a physiological thing, in fact. The shape of my mouth. I had, um, I had an underbite and a soft palate issue, which, it wasn't a big deal. They corrected themselves. So it was mostly tongue placement after those things corrected themselves, right? Those are very drastic changes for the physiology of the mouth structures. The mandible placement is very important for where your tongue ends up when you're making phonemes, right? So you have to kind of adjust. It's like learning how to talk for a second time. I don't think it was ever anxiety. That's not really what I would call it. I used to think that I had anxiety, that I had social anxiety disorder. I don't think so anymore. I think it's something very different. But, it kind of comes off the same, so a lot of the same things might have helped. Yeah. I don't feel comfortable in social situations. I feel very uncomfortable in social situations most of the time, and I prefer not to be in social situations. Yeah, that's about all I'm gonna say about that. Uh, I'd rather not talk about it, if that's alright. Yeah. Um, I've developed many coping strategies for what I do have, and again, I consider this partly therapeutic for me. Heavy on the anxiety end. It's tough. I know a lot of people who have anxiety, and I used to think because my symptoms were so similar that I also had anxiety. Thank you for being understanding. Yeah. um, yeah. It's very tough to admit that, too. That you have anxiety or that you have something else. And it's just very tough to live with. All these things that normal. All these things that the average person might take for granted can become these gigantic burdens or mountains to just cross, right? And sometimes the only way to get through it is to get through it. You gotta work over it yourself. And that's why I think cognitive behavioral therapy is so important, but it only works if the patient themselves want to actually, get it to work. Normies, the oblivious normies. They have their own problems too, though. Yeah, normies go explode. Um, yeah, they have their own problems too, though, right? Like, I don't know. I'm happy with who I am. I don't hate myself. I don't dislike myself. There are just some things that, I'd like to have the ability to choose when they're active or when they're not. I will say that I have a touch of OCD. Very mild, very, very mild. But it's characterized by repetitive actions, right? And intrusive worries. So I bake every night, right? I bake bread every night. And every time that I end baking my bread, I turn off my oven and I leave the kitchen. And then I worry, like 30 minutes later, did I turn off my oven? And I think to myself, yes, I turned off my oven. But I have to go check. And then I check the oven and I see that the oven's off. But I have to press the button to turn it off again. And that repeats maybe 5 or 6 times per night. Throughout the course of my night, I just repeat that process. Even before bed, I have to make sure that I turned the oven off. Doesn't surprise. Yeah, yeah, it's probably pretty obvious. Yeah. Um, in a way, making videos is also therapeutic for me because I allow myself to be just good enough, right? Like, I don't stress myself over the videos I make. I make the content that I think I'm happy enough with. I used to be uh, very strict with my videos. I would cut out all of my stammering. I would cut out most of the uhs. And you would just get this polished final product of me talking mostly fluently, like a normal, well-adjusted human being. It's very different from my streams. Nowadays, I do that a lot less. I leave some of the stammering in, and I think it flows a lot better. I think it's more natural. So I'm happier to have it. But I also think it's okay not to talk perfectly. I think it's probably better if it doesn't seem too polished. You know what I mean? I feel like it's more relatable if I just leave some of those things in there. What? No, I'm normal. I'm very normal compared to the others. Jekyll is abnormal. It is just super normal. Or would I call him paranormal? I think he's probably paranormal. Clown Hyde's probably the most normal, which is ironic, right? I was thinking the other day how much I enjoy characters that are clowns. Clowns, jesters, comedic foils. Like, I know a lot of people hated Jar Jar Binks from the Star Wars prequels. But I was one of the people who really enjoyed Jar Jar. As a kid, I had an action figure of Jar Jar Binks, and it was probably like a foot long. It was a very, very detailed Jar Jar Binks action figure. It didn't have too many points of articulation, but it was very well made. I enjoyed Jar Jar Binks that much. I also enjoyed Yoda, who... we're getting into Star Wars. I'm not a big Star Wars fan, let me say that up front. But these were things that were part of my youth, so I should talk about them a little bit. I really enjoyed Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back. When he first meets Luke, he is this senile old creature playing this bit part. And it turns out he's actually the super powerful Jedi Grandmaster. Jar Jar Lollipop? Yeah, I know. Everybody hates Jar Jar. It's kind of a meme. I've never had the Jar Jar lollipop. That sounds horrific. Nothing in my life would make me want to eat Jar Jar Binks. um, yeah, I don't think I've ever admitted to liking Jar Jar Binks as a child. There was a period where I was also the meme type of, oh, everybody hates Jar Jar. I guess I can't admit to it. So I didn't. And I would also make fun of Jar Jar Binks. But I think it's more fitting now, right? Like, I think Jar Jar Binks was supposed to be a Sith Lord. He was supposed to be Force sensitive. I think that was the original intention of George Lucas. And it's a shame that he didn't become a Sith Lord. Mostly because my action figure would be worth a lot more now if he had been a Sith Lord. Look up the lollipop. Uh, I'll look it up after I stream. Jar Jar lollipop. Really? That's very... You know, when I was a kid, we had these ice creams from, like, ice cream men who came around in vans. Very creepy ice cream vans. Like, cartoon characters with the gumball eyes. Like, in my youth, it was, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and SpongeBob. But I guess there are probably different ones now. Like the Sonic ones, too. Although we didn't have the Sonic ones in my youth. You'll ask me next time. Okay. I will definitely look it up after the stream. I don't know. But that's what it's kind of making me think about. Those ice creams with the deformed faces that barely look like the characters they're supposed to be. I remember getting a Donatello, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle one, and it was just all melted, and it did not look like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. The eyes were just sliding down. You like the Pikachu ones? Oh, we didn't have Pikachu ones, which is very strange considering that anime was so much of my youth. I really like Brock as a character, right? Jelly donuts are my favorite. I love jelly donuts. I love the drying pad comment. It's just great. It took me a while to realize that Japan really likes that archetype, right? That they have the romantic archetype. So you have your Sanji from One Piece, you have your, um, hmm. Should I talk about the samurai, or the, what were they called? The samurai pizza cats? I think that was the American localization for it. Yeah, okay, we'll talk about the samurai pizza cats. I watched the first episode of that while I was sick. Yeah, doesn't she well? What? Doesn't she well? See. Yeah. Well, keeps his eyes closed. You can't be fooled by your sight if, you can't see at all. How can eyes be real if the soul isn't real? Oh, age. Age, yeah. I don't know. I was actually thinking to myself, the older cartoons aged remarkably well. Um, for my project, I was looking at old cartoons from the 80s and early 90s. I will say that much. Somehow, I ended up watching the first couple episodes of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I watched, I watched the first episode of Samurai Pizza Cats, and there was a romantic character. I would say his name, but I fear that YouTube would get angry at me for saying an Italian racial slur. But it's his name. It's his name. His last name's Anchovy. I will say that. He was the romantic archetype as well. It was very interesting watching some of those old cartoons from my youth as well. Yeah. Incidentally, neither of those are related to the cartoon I was watching for my project. But, they were around the same time period. Yes, they do come off as harassers, which is why the girls don't like them. I think that's great. I think that's fantastic, showing that those archetypes aren't really enjoyed. Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with you. That's the best part. Um, they're fools, you know? They're very foolish. They're coming off too strong. It was like Johnny Bravo, you know? Johnny Bravo was an American cartoon starring a muscle-brained, well, romantic would be a nice way of calling him, who would flirt with every girl he met, and they would always turn him down because he wasn't being himself. Usually played for comic relief. Yeah, that's true. That's like the whole idea of Johnny Bravo, too. It was about the comedy of him coming off too strong. But the actual times when he tried to be himself, like, he was actually a pretty respectable guy. He was just doing things incorrectly because he thought that that's what women wanted. And I think that's the beauty of that archetype. It makes you deeply uncomfortable. I could see that. I could definitely see that if you're taking it as, well, it's funny to do these things, but I don't think that's actually, well, thinking about it, maybe it is. Like, these are made for, like, children, right? I don't know. it, hmm. I'll have to think about that. But in my own experience, no one wanted to be Brock. No one wanted to be Sanji. Because they realized, when I was a kid, they realized that they never got the girl. And if that's what you wanted, you know, to find a girlfriend, you probably shouldn't act like them. I will say, from a different perspective, like playing that off as comedy is probably a bad thing in the sense that this is a real life problem. Based on, yeah, yeah. Like, it definitely changes based on how you play it off and the context of it. But I think I see what you're saying. It is a real life problem. So these people really do exist. These overly flirtatious, coming off too strong types do exist. And they can be a real problem, because in real life you can't just smack them with a giant hammer. As much as you wish you could, you can't. So, I guess I could understand why that would make you feel, ooh, we're out of fish space, we have to go back. I could understand why that would make you feel uncomfortable. I've never really seen it that way, because I've always seen it as, you know, they're idiots, don't be like them kind of message, unfortunately, yeah. And, you know, I haven't really had to deal with these kind of things myself. That's part of it, too. Well, can I say that? Nah, I'm not gonna talk about that. I'm gonna leave you all wondering about my life. We're gonna do a tiny bit more fishing, because I haven't been around too much. Yeah. I will say, in addition to working on my project, new anime season, right? So we've gotten the winter anime coming out, and a lot of it's isekai trash. And furthermore, a lot of it's isekai trash that I've already read as light novels, which is nice. I know what to expect from a lot of the series, and I've been enjoying the first couple episodes. Something that would be probably less trashy is the isekai Magic Maker. It's very heartfelt in a way. It does have some isekai tropes of, well, the brother and sister are oddly close. So a good season for Hyde? Absolutely. Magic Maker was one of those stories that probably was one of the last ones I read as a light novel, back when I had time to read light novels. So essentially before I got into streaming and making content. So seeing it have an anime adaptation makes me wonder how far the story got, because it was just starting when I was starting out, and I had only read like the first one or two light novels, I think. It's about a guy who gets isekai'd into a world that has magic, but no one knows about magic. So he has to discover magic and how to use it. That's very interesting, right? He doesn't get any OP cheat skills. He's just a boy learning about natural processes. So it always reminded me a bit of like the scientific method. So I really like that. And if you can get past the weird closeness between the brother and sister, it's pretty good. There's another one. Huh? What? You don't know about that trope? I don't know what it is, but for some reason, a lot of isekai novels and isekai trash light novels, manga, they have brothers and sisters, where the sisters like their brothers a little bit too much, for even my liking. Like, it kinda crosses a line, but for whatever reason, Japan's okay with that. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that. There was that in Spirit Chronicles too, wasn't there? Although they weren't really related, so that's okay. No, reacting to the concept. What? Oh, okay. The concept of Magic Maker. Yeah, yeah. I do like the OP cheat skill ones, but, you know. When I ran out of those, I started reading whatever isekai trash I could get. Thoughts on Dr. Stone. Well, I only got so far with Dr. Stone. I got to them going to the weird island where, like, the ray may have come from, and that's about it. I haven't seen the new season. I saw that there was a new season out, but I stopped a long time ago. I really enjoyed the science elements of it, but at the same time, they were kind of basic, right? Like, I don't know. They were very... I don't want to say it was bad. I think it was just very strange. I don't know if it fit. Finish the manga? Oh, I see. Well, I haven't gotten that far, and I don't think I will. So that's my thoughts on it. I don't think it was a bad series. I think it had a lot of promise in the beginning, and I really enjoyed the premise. I think the science itself was a bit weak for being the focus, right? Like, I think other stories might have done it better. Well above the knowledge level. No, no. Only in certain fields am I above the average, right? Like, I may know a little bit more about geology than the average person, but that's about it. When it comes to simple machines, I guess, maybe. I don't remember all of the multiplicative force ratios, but you know, like, simple machines are simple machines. Everybody knows about simple machines, whether they know about it or not. No, no, I don't think so. That's more of a Jekyll thing, anyway. Anyway. I'm not selling myself short here. I'm being honest. I had, like, the standard education in high school. Okay, I may have taken every science course in my high school available. I may have been unanimously elected president of the science club in high school, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. Okay, can I talk about science fiction for a moment? Like, I really enjoy some science fiction. Look, I didn't run for president. They elected me president without me running. There's a difference. Anyway, I want to talk about science fiction for a second. In modern times, I don't remember much of it. I've forgotten a lot more than I'll ever know. Wait, does that make sense? Probably. The way the human mind works, I probably have forgotten a lot more than I'll ever know. It doesn't process everything into memory, right? But you're probably experiencing a lot of things all at once. Like, who knows how much data I bet you could quantify it. How much data you're experiencing, but how much you actually commit to memory. The brain is a mysterious organ, right? Just a little bit more mysterious than I'd like. More than most people. Oh, okay. Maybe. But I'll counter by saying that I can't even remember what day it is most days. Right? Okay. Yeah. Which one's more practical? Knowing that a pulley makes a system more efficient, or being able to remember what day it is? Being able to remember to take your vitamins. Even remembering that you have taken your vitamins. I'm getting so old that I don't remember if I've taken my multivitamins for the day. And I have to put like my multivitamins on the counter and move them to specific places just to know if I've taken them that day. So after I take them, I put them in one place. And then, after I take them, uh, I'll move them later during the day to remind myself that I've already taken them, and that the next day that I haven't taken them yet. Can use a tracker. Oh, I don't have my phone on me most of the time. Most of the time, I keep my phone on my desk, and I just leave it there. If I ever use it, it's going to be at my desk. I don't like being too available to people. So what do you do? I imagine if you have your tracker with you, that might be useful. Look, when I'm working, my phone's there, and I can use it. That's great. And when I'm not there, people can't access me unless I, walk past my phone and pick it up and look. I think that's fine, right? I come from an era where landline telephones were not always available, you know? Like, we still had payphones around. I was very much like a decade in the past where I grew up. So payphones were very common, and dial-up was a new thing. So you couldn't always have the phone there either. I think being always available is a bad thing, right? Like, you need time to yourself. That's probably for the best. Being constantly available. Like, I know if there's an emergency, it's probably for the best to have your phone with you. Am I back? Am I back? I think I'm back. Reconnection successful. Very good. What was I saying? Right. Yes. Damn internet hiccup. I've been having a lot of those again. That's not great either. I feel better when I have the ability to choose when I talk. There's something psychological there, where I'm not being forced to have a conversation when I feel drained. I can pick up the phone and respond when I feel that I'm up to it. Yes, that's where we were. People like to interact with me. Unfortunately, the internet does not allow it all the time. I didn't unplug the internet. I didn't do it, no. It's just my ISP, I swear. Like, I'm streaming longer than I usually do, right? I have to have some credit. I know what I am. Some credit. I know what I am. I don't have to run from it. I don't have to unplug the internet. I don't mind uncomfortable conversations sometimes. I swear. It was just very convenient timing. Like the last time that happened and my stream ended. Yeah, very convenient timing, you know? Right. I think all of this started because I wanted to talk about science fiction, didn't it? When I was in college, I took a dedicated course on science fiction, right? So, science fiction stories, science fiction writing, all of that stuff. And I really enjoyed classic science fiction, where the science was very heavy. Doubt? You can press X all you want. I'm telling the truth here. My conscience is light. Very light. Jekyll has none, so it's not light. It's non-existent, which is the lightest of all. Oh, it's been a while since I've done Jekyll voice. That's gonna be tough. I'll have to work on that too. Anyway, I really enjoy, like, the science-heavy science fiction. So I'm probably biased against Dr. Stone. Um, I remember in the early Dr. Stone season, whatever episode it was, they were talking to the kid who was making different colored fires, and I was like, yeah, like that's basic science knowledge. Different materials burn with different spectrums of light. That's obvious, right? I guess it isn't, right? Um, when I was, I guess, I don't know. It wasn't too long ago, but it was after college sometime. Um, I tried to make a candle that would burn green, right? So what I did was I got some pennies and some hydrogen peroxide and then some hydrogen chloride, and I heated the. No, I didn't do that. It's not right. I used vinegar. I used acetic acid, right? So I heated vinegar, acetic acid, um, and I added hydrogen peroxide, and then I put pennies in it. And theoretically, I should have produced copper acetate, which is a lovely green crystal. And if you know anything about copper, it burns green. And I do. I do have copper acetate. I never finished that project. I never figured out a good way of incorporating the copper acetate into a candle to make it, wick up like a candle. I learned that you could use isopropyl alcohol of sufficient purity to acetates, and that you could probably burn that, but I never tried it. I didn't get that far. If you do that at home, if you ever want to strip the copper coating off of pennies, which are copper coated zinc, you do have to use hydrogen peroxide and a heated acid. Jekyll makes weird ass candles. I don't think they're weird. The problem is I can't find isopropyl alcohol of sufficient purity, or of sufficient concentration. Like, all the stuff I find is 70%. And when I was researching this, all of the articles said that you had to use like 90% or 99%. It wasn't for nefarious purposes. I was going to do it for Halloween. I wanted to make green fire for Halloween. Is that so bad? I thought the kids would enjoy it. And then I immediately thought to myself, I should not have kids around fire, right? Especially weird fire. Weird jelly candle fires. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this. Maybe I shouldn't be teaching people how to make, like, jellied candles out of isopropyl alcohol. Okay, I left a few steps out. It's fine. You have 91% on your desk right now? I'm jealous. I can't get anything above 70% around here. Sam's Club. I wish there was... Well, do I wish there were a Sam's Club around here? Not really. Not really. I'm kind of happy that there isn't. But it would make some things easier. I find it very hard to find the chemicals I need, right? I think if I went to a hardware store, I could probably simplify the process a little bit. I could purify things. Like, vinegar is not a great acid substitute. Even heated vinegar, it's not ideal. What I should have used is hydrochloric acid, but then it wouldn't be an acetate at the end. I'd have had to done some tricky chemistry to turn, I guess it would be copper chloride into copper acetate. Local laws? I don't know. I think it might just be the local availability of things for me. I live in the middle of nowhere. Products don't really have much variety around here. And some things just aren't sold. I don't know. I do realize that for medical purposes, having higher percentage of isopropyl alcohol isn't really necessary. There is some kind of back and forth in the research that I've seen, suggesting that higher percentage of alcohol is actually harmful to the healing of skin. Oh, I do love Nile Red and Nile Blue. The question is, do I love Nile Red more than I love Nile Blue? And that's a question you can answer yourself. Yeah. Yes, I've seen all of them. They're fantastic. I used to watch a lot of Cody's Lab, too. Cody's Lab never really got that big, but I think Cody's Lab is still producing content, which is interesting. I haven't seen too much of Cody's Lab recently. um, yeah. Yes, his videos are great. Niall and Cody. I'd recommend them both. Yep, I have seen them. They're fantastic. The little bit of madness that seeps through. I have to wonder if maybe he didn't inhale a little bit too much of the bromine that he made. Just a little bit. There is definitely a madness to scientists that I've met and known. And it's not always the same madness, right? But he has the good kind of madness, where I could see him being very much... Well, Jekyll's kind of like him, as opposed to him being like Jekyll. You need that little touch of madness to enjoy the science. Oh, Nile Red and baking. You know, the interesting thing about him making cookies was that they weren't pure cookies. He was wrong about that. You thought of me during the cookie video. Well, thank you. That's nice. I take issue with the cookie video. I think he misunderstood the scientific standards, right? Scientific standards aren't about purity. They might not even be, like, they're definitely not fit for human consumption. They're not pure, though. They're standardized, right? There's a difference between being standardized and being pure. So it was kind of a misleading video for me, and I didn't like that, right? They weren't pure ingredients, they were just the standard ingredient. What the US Bureau of Standards said was standard. This has the standard protein content, this has the standard fat content, so on and so forth. Which is very interesting to me, right? The fact that we have a bureau just dedicated to making these standards of weird things. Like, there's a standard sewage sludge, so people who do sewage treatment can compare their sewage sludge to US standard sewage sludge to see how it differs, which I think is fantastic. America is such a standardized place, right? That we have standards for things that no one else would ever standardize. But at the same time, that really messes with a lot of things. It makes things a lot more expensive because you have to test them against standards. Which is good, and it's bad. It's good because the consumer gets a better product in the sense that it's cleaner, and you know exactly what's in it. But at the same time, there's less competition because it's easier to do those kind of standardization tests in bulk, to take small samples out of a lot of material, and then say, okay, all of this material, all of these tons of material has been standardized, and these are the results, as opposed to a smaller business, you know, taking a much larger fraction of their product to standardize things. So it kind of makes smaller businesses have to pay more to standardize their products, to make sure their products are safe, whatever else you want to do with your standards, to make sure that you're reporting accurately what's in your product. So I'm kind of torn on that, but I think it's a remarkable feat that America has managed to do this. Now, is that saying that we're getting good products? No. Our food is so heavily... Maybe I should get off my soapbox talking about this. It's getting dangerously close to politics. I will say, though, I hate corn syrup. I absolutely hate corn syrup. I wish corn syrup had never been invented, and even if it had been invented, that it was only used to make ethanol. And I'm not even sure if I like ethanol as a fuel additive, right? I think it might be dangerous to certain engines. So the practicality of even turning it into ethanol, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's probably bad that we have corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is just a very dangerous thing to me. I don't like talking about these things because they're so adjacent to politics, right? But I feel like it's important to say. Um, I do not like soda either. Soda is a terrible thing. I think soda is worse than alcohol for the human body. And yet soda is so heavily subsidized and full of so many cheap ingredients that it's somehow cheaper than clean water. Diabetic animals? Yeah, okay. Well, yes, okay, yes, fair. There are uses for it. I'll agree. I think glucose might be easier, but uh, maybe animals don't like the taste of glucose. Corn syrup is more natural in that sense, although it's hard to call it natural. I do think it's overused in our products. How about that? I don't like corn syrup. It has a use, okay? In candy making, it can make candies softer. I like that. So, if you're making specifically candy and you want a softer candy, sure, corn syrup. Why not? But I don't like the fact that soda is cheaper than clean water. That makes me very, very upset that soda is somehow cheaper than clean water. Now, to be fair, it takes a lot of chemistry to purify and clean water to acceptable standards, right? America doesn't always have the ability to do that, right? A lot of our water pipes, a lot of our infrastructure is very old, and it was made prior to, I guess, safety inspections and codes and standards, and people just used what they had on hand, and then you get lead in your water pipes, and yeah, a little bit of lead isn't bad, but still, clean water ought to be cheaper than something made of, you know, anything else. Like, clean water is the base of base of soda. So theoretically, water should be cheaper. It's not, for a lot of reasons. And some of those aren't good reasons, but some of them, I guess, are. To be fair, soda will last longer on a shelf than a bottle of clean water. Why? Because sugar inhibits mold. Obviously. That's a good thing. High acidity inhibits bacteria and mold. Also, a good thing. So, I get it. If you store it as syrup in your warehouses, it will stay pretty inert, pretty unreactive, pretty uninhibited growth. Or inhibited growth. And you can sell it later. Whereas with water, water has a shelf life for a reason. Most bottled water is treated in some way to purify it. So it's either like distilled or it's treated with chlorine or bleach, something like that, which will inhibit growth. But that doesn't last as long as sugar, because sugar is just going to be there. It's going to be there for the product it's in. Whereas these other things eventually will break down, and they have to be in such small amounts that they're safe for consumption, right? So, yeah, water on the shelf will probably go bad before soda does. If there's ever an apocalypse, you gotta be really careful with bottled water, because it will go bad. You gotta make sure that you check the dates on your bottled water, and if you're ever unsure, reach for the soda first, I guess. It's probably not great for you, but in an apocalypse situation anyway, you want the quick calories for all the needed energy of, I don't know, avoiding zombies or, I don't know. What apocalypse do you think would be the best apocalypse to live in? I think zombies would probably be pretty good to live in because, well, it depends on the zombie. Like, they're all apocalypses, so you don't want any of them, right? But if you had to choose one, yeah. didn't know that. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that water goes bad. But it makes sense. Like, water is the building block for so much of life on Earth, including bacterial life. And it's a great medium for growing things. So, yeah, it's there. It will go bad. It's just like any other stagnant water. Things will grow in it eventually. It just takes time. Yeah. Which is another thing that I would like to talk about Nile Red's cookie video. Those ingredients were probably on the shelf for years and years, which is another reason why they were not really fit for human consumption. Waterworld, everything floods. Oh. Ooh. That's an interesting thing. Waterworld with Kevin Costner. I really enjoyed that movie. Like, a lot of people hated that movie when I was younger, but I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed Kevin Costner's acting. Now, the smokers were very interesting people, because they were using oil, right? And I really enjoyed the one character that was in the, like, little dinghy in the fuel tank. That's great. Just having someone down there constantly monitoring the, I guess it would have been diesel, but it was sludge at that point. Can we talk about that too? That's another thing that apocalypse novels get wrong. Cookies to the end of the world. It's related. In the end of the world, you want cookies, right? Cookies are high calories. They can be diverse ingredients, so you can put fruits and nuts in there, and they can actually be pretty healthy, especially if you use whole grains for your cookies, which I highly recommend. The reason I invented my peanut butter cookie recipe was, in part because I wanted to get diverse nutrition very quickly into my body, because I hate eating. Eating is such a chore. Should I talk about that? No. I want to talk about the end of the world. Um, I've worked in oil and gas, right? And I gotta say, after a couple years, all of the gasoline and diesel out there it's going to be sludge. It's going to be fractionated through natural processes. So the heavier hydrocarbons are going to turn to tar, and the lighter hydrocarbons are going to evaporate or turn into a gaseous phase. It's not gonna... Gasoline, after a couple years, is not going to be usable. So the idea that in Waterworld they had these tankers full of... It did look very degraded, so I'll give them that. But the fact that they still had it at all, and it was still running in engines and stuff, no. Not happening. You get like 3 years tops if you have like additives to stabilize it. So really what you're looking at is 6 months to a year for gasoline stabilization. Like, I found it remarkable that people didn't know that. There's such a high turnover of gasoline and petroleum products like kerosene or diesel that, yeah, in the end times, unless you're producing new stuff, it's just not going to be there after 6 months to a year. Yeah. Last man on Earth. I'm glad that some stories are telling that accurately, but I've seen in a lot of zombie novels and zombie fiction that people are still, like, going to gas tanks and being like, yeah, let's fill up. I'm like, no. Your car is worthless. You might as well be using biodiesel at this point, because that's about all you're going to get. Unless they are, like, producing, right? Like, in my mind, I think Waterworld could still work, because oil platforms, oil rigs out in the ocean might be still producing for the smokers. I think that might have been the implication. They were still producing crude oil, and maybe they had access to some refining technology to fractionate their crude oil into runnable diesel or runnable gasoline, maybe. I don't know. Probably gasoline with what they were using, but I kind of doubt they had the technology for it. But in my headcanon, that would be one way of having that possible, right? Of course, oil rigs... Oh, well... I'm talking about Waterworld here. Waterworld is not a scientifically feasible story to begin with. Where would all of the water come from, you know? Like, you have to ask yourself, where did all the water come from? Yes, the ocean will expand as it gets warmer and warmer, but it's not going to expand that drastically to cover every landmass. It's not how it works. There will be massive flooding, and the usable land will be much smaller. But at the same time, I don't know. Maybe if a giant, like, comet hits, and it's just, like, ice, and you add a tremendous amount of water. But then you'd have other problems, like the giant, like, dust clouds, and, the explosive, tremendous kinetic force of a bolide colliding with the planet. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see Waterworld being too feasible. Ironically, I see the zombie apocalypse as more feasible than Waterworld. But you're right, Waterworld would be more fun, except for the giant fish. Yes, I did. You're right. You're right, you're absolutely right. I did ask for preference. I think I'd probably prefer, it's gonna sound strange. The answer that always works, yes. Aliens. No. I have no faith in aliens. If aliens exist, they're going to get rid of us to steal our resources, or they're not going to care about us, so it'll never happen. Yeah. Oh, okay. So aliens were the answer to Waterworld. You know what? I could see that. What if they had, like, hydrogen fuel cells and they needed to dump all of their wastewater from burning their hydrogen? That's a possibility. Although they'd probably have technology to split it. But what if they had too much fuel? I could see that. Yeah. No. For apocalypses, I was thinking about... I didn't watch it too much, but there was a show called Jericho, I think. And basically, there was a massive EMP, and all of the electronics got fried, except for a few. I think that would probably be the best case scenario as far as apocalypses went. Globally, it would be catastrophic, absolutely. Locally, it could be catastrophic as well, but there would still be the chance of humans recovering, right? The technology might be lost, and that might set humans back as a species a couple hundred years, but we could still retain the knowledge of books and regrow as a species. Your parents like that show? It was an interesting concept. I think a lot of older generations would like to go back in time before things were so modern and complicated. And I could see that appealing to some people. It appeals to me too, right? Again, I used to be a Neo-Luddite, right? I didn't like technology, and to a certain degree, I've eased up on my Luddite qualities, and I accept that technology has a time and a place. And even if technology will strip us of things that I value, that maybe it can give us things that are better than what I value. That's optimism right there, right? That's my optimism towards technology, that maybe it can give us something better than what I know we're losing from it. This way and that way with it. Ambivalence, yeah. I think that people who just blindly accept technology without fearing it a little bit kind of weird me out. Have a hard time without the internet? Yeah. Like, I remember the years before the internet. I remember having to go to libraries and read books. I remember that kind of stuff. So I remember how hard it was to do reports, and how nice it is now to have all of the world's information at your fingertips, essentially. Slowing down the pace of the world would be nice. I agree with that. I think humans are still in their growing pains when it comes to technology. So it's right to say that it's causing a lot of problems. I just don't know whether those problems will be for the long term, or if we're just experiencing those growing pains, you know? It could be either way, and I really have no way of knowing. It's kind of sad, but I exist in that period of uncertainty, which is fine, you know? I think compared to the general person, I probably exist in more of a state of uncertainty than the average. Depersonalization's great. Yeah, it would be nice to have things slow down, though. I think we're doing a lot of ecological damage by just being overpopulated. I know what a lot of people say. We have a lot of unused land out there. And we do. Humans could spread theoretically much further than we have. A lot of countries aren't very populated compared to others. We have huge land masses that are just devoid of humans, in fact. But I don't think that means that we have to spread to them, or that we should spread to them. Maybe I enjoy nature too much, but I would like it very much if we did not destroy all of it. Would that be so hard, to not destroy all of our nature? I don't know. Maybe. I don't... Like, I don't know. Unused by humans, there's plenty of other creatures. Yes, yes, that's true. And we need some of those. Like, I've been watching a lot of Roanoke Gaming as of late. Roanoke Gaming is a channel that does summaries of movies, pop culture things, television a little bit, video games. I think he did television, maybe not. No, he did, with The Last of Us. And he does the science behind what those things could be based on, or how it could work in real life. And one of his big things is parasites being essential for human life. Basically, he likes the argument that parasites are essential for humans to regulate their homeostatic functions. Homeostasis being the things that maintain your natural, what's the right word? Conditions, things like temperature, blood flow, that kind of thing. So, he agrees with the argument that parasites have a calming effect on the immune system, and that because a lot of countries have eradicated most of the parasites in the population, those countries, which happen to be a lot of the time Western countries, industrialized countries, they happen to have higher rates of things like allergies and autoimmune disorders, which would indicate immune system hyperactivity, right? So we don't even know how much we need nature sometimes. Interesting? Yeah. It's an interesting argument. I haven't looked into it, but he says it a lot. So don't take it as something that's true. I don't know. But it is interesting, and I realize that humans are an arrogant species, and we've been arrogant many times in the past, and we thought we knew better than nature, right? But nature always knows better than humans. Nature will always be on top, because nature is more creative than humanity. So getting rid of that, and turning it into human habitable spaces, I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea. I think probably preserving some of these things would be good. Yeah, preserving some of nature would probably be good. Not populating it immediately would be great. Fantastic. Slow it down, right? Can we just reproduce a little bit less? I know why people reproduce, right? People reproduce because they want to have children. And governments like that because they like to have populations of citizens, especially growing populations because it increases GDP. But could we maybe not hold the GDP as sacred? Could we maybe, I don't know, focus on the standard of living for the human citizens already? Useless? Like mosquitoes? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, mosquitoes aren't actually useless. That's another thing that Roanoke Gaming says, too. Um, he did talk about mosquitoes quite a bit. He said that there was an initiative, less intentional reasons too. Yes, yes, sure. But I'm talking about wanting versus having, I guess. I was an accident, so it's fine. Uh, there are plenty of accidents out there, and we're perfectly normal people, perfectly okay, right? Nothing wrong with us. But yeah, he said that because of CRISPR technology, there have been some initiatives to create like a genophage virus, essentially, from like Mass Effect, although it's not quite the same, that would eventually sterilize mosquito populations and end the mosquito species, which is interesting. We have the power to do that, to eradicate mosquitoes if we ever wanted to. And I agree, we do have the technology to do that, surprisingly enough. But he also argued the same line of thinking about parasites, whether mosquitoes might be necessary somehow. And yes, they are, to the food web. He doesn't go into it too much, but there are certain things that only eat mosquitoes. Or things that primarily eat mosquitoes and mosquito larvae. So you are talking about drastically changing the food webs of an area without knowing the long-term effects to other populations. Heard of that? Such a stupid idea? It's interesting that we have the ability to do it. I'm not calling it interesting as like a moral dilemma or anything. It's interesting that we have the technology to do it. Because you don't think about that too often, do you? That we have the technology right now, should we want to destroy any single species that we should choose. Mosquitoes do help pollinate. Yes, they do. Certain species of flora. It's absolutely true. They are essential to a lot of food webs. Okay. Well, in that case, I disagree. I still find it interesting. I do think it's stupid, but it's interesting. It is kind of frustrating that people... I'm letting a lot of my personal ideas out tonight. I've already said that humans, I see them as a very arrogant race. We've contended with nature many times. We've fought against nature. And every single time we lost. Nature is better than our imagination. Nature is smarter than us because it is iterative, lies on large numbers. It is decentralized, and it can do things we cannot. So nature will always have the upper hand, and the fact that we think that we can be better than nature, it's like arguments about eugenics, right? I always say about eugenics, in theory, it would be nice if we could have the best genes. However, in practical use, there is no way that we could ever be sure that we would have the necessary genes to survive. Even if we had the best possible genes in a given circumstance, nature's always changing. The environment will determine what lives or dies. And if you have everybody with the same best genes as you, like, say there were theoretically a best set of genes, and you could have the entire population have it, that lack of genetic diversity leaves you open to any number of problems, whether it be about breeding, reproducing, or about like a disease that only affects certain genetic, I guess, predispositions. Like, that lack of diversity will cause the death of the species, right? So it's very arrogant. Think about the bananas. Yes, yes. The bananas. The banana disease. I can't remember the name of the original cultivar before the Cavendish bananas that we have today. But I'd very much like to try them someday. They are still grown. They're just very endangered. The original cultivar of bananas before the Cavendish bananas became the banana. But yes, that's another great example. Monocultivars, or monospecies, I guess. They're very dangerous. I don't like them. I knew one person who argued that surviving mass extinctions wasn't necessarily about genetic diversity. It was about geographic distribution, which is an interesting idea, but I don't know if that actually applies to complex life. Like, probably okay for marine invertebrates. Maybe not so okay for complex terrestrial tetrapods like humans. I don't know. Maybe it is the same. Humans seem to be geographically diverse. But I think geographic diversity actually increases genetic diversity of populations by putting a species into multiple varied and very different environments, which leads them to change in subtle ways while still being the same species, adding to diversity, which will allow them to better fare with, as a species, as a total species, say a global species. They'll have more chance of surviving as a species, as certain populations are less likely to. Other certain populations will be more likely to survive. So I think geographic diversity, or geographic spread, and genetic diversity go hand in hand in that sense. Right? Maybe? Yeah, I don't know. I probably talked about a lot of things I shouldn't have today. It was a very interesting conversation, though. And maybe my biases towards evolutionary, not biology, but paleontology might have come through modern humans. Yeah, it's very strange with modern humans. That's something that's only happened in the last 200 years, really. The fact that we've been able to spread, and thus the once geographically isolated populations have now come in contact with one another, and genes from very distant populations, which would have never come into contact otherwise, are now spreading and being shared. It's very interesting. I think we're going to see less speciation as a result of it, but, that's probably for the better, right? Excuse you while you steal a fish. Hi, Wintercraft. You could steal a fish. We're unfortunately ending here, but... yeah, I think it's very interesting. The fact that these geographically isolated populations are now interacting. Of course, there are negatives to that. Things like diseases that were endemic to certain populations are also spread. And as you know, some viruses can it wouldn't be inject, but would it be I can't remember the right word for it. Yeah, but certainly some amount of viral DNA could enter into an unaffiliated population. So it's interesting. I think there are a lot of issues related to that. I think it's definitely something to watch. It's going to be hard for medicine, right? It was easier for medicine when populations were more isolated. It was easier for transplants, especially. As different ethnic groups interact with one another, it actually becomes harder for, I guess, people with diverse heritage to find donors or compatible organs, which is definitely an issue. Definitely something science can probably handle in the next 10, 20 years, but we're not there yet. So, yeah, I think it's probably a good thing for genetic diversity. I don't think there's any one way for nature to have it, right? I think the important thing is the genes exist, and less so whether the genes are expressed. Yeah. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me today, and I apologize that I've been gone for so long. Hopefully, I will be back next week. Technology allowing, of course. It's a great thing about intermittent tech issues. I don't know if I fixed the issues or not. We are lacking. That's exactly right. We're not there yet, but we're on the cusp of greatness as far as medical technologies go. We're gonna grow organs, I know it. It was nice talking to me. Thank you. It was nice talking to you as well. It's always nice to talk to people who show up. It's always nice to have these interactive therapies for myself. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for putting up with all of the internet hiccups tonight. Hopefully in the future there'll be fewer of those, but probably not. I had a great time. Thank you for stopping by. I will see you all again next time. But for now... Hold on, I have to find the right... Oh, where is it? For now, hide out. Jurassic Park genetic engineering. I wish. Although... don't just put frog DNA in things. That's not a solution. Gonna have a lot of problems if you do that. They weren't dinosaurs, they were like chimeras. Just throwing that out there, they were not dinosaurs. Have a good night. Yep, thank you for stopping by. See you all next time. Love you all.